This is so exciting. This is a void that's been missing in this country for a long time. So there's questions on everybody's mind where you think you know the answers, but you don't. Hey everybody, it's Danny from Joe Dan Buick GMC in Moosic, PA, serving Olive, Scranton, and Wilkes-Barre, and it's tailgate time. I'm here with Ricky, Master Certified Technician. Today we're going to talk about, memory lane.
A little bit of memory lane is good for us.
Talk about what we had maybe growing up, what was our favorite car.
Boy,
and how about
so
technologies, the way things have changed from the olden days of when cars were cars. I don't want to say when cars were cars, but when cars were...
Cars were mechanical years ago.
Correct.
Cars are anything but mechanical today.
All right. So where do you want to start? How about what was your, not your first car, but what was your favorite car?
My favorite car, I had a 68 Impala Super Sport, 427 4-speed car.
What?
I did. And it was the
Did you put the 427 in, or is that it was born with?
It was. And it was a beautiful car.
That's a pretty rare car nowadays.
It wasn't beautiful when I got it. I bought it for $50. $50. $50 I bought the car for, and I restored it. It took me 7 years to put the car back together. And I loved that car. And then my daughter was born in '85. I needed money. I had a business going. I needed the money. Sold the car for $3,500 in '85. That car is probably worth $90,000 today.
Probably. Far and few in between. I don't see too many with a 427, but that was
my favorite car.
That was a hot car.
Oh my God.
It was kind of floaty, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was floaty.
I know they go straight, but how about around a curve?
Well, you had to know how to drive back then. Today cars kind of do a lot of their own thing, but back in the day, they swayed a lot and they didn't stop like you'd want them to, but you got them where you wanted to put them.
You drove this car? This was your daily driver that you drove through the seasons?
I drove it all year.
The winter time?
Uh-huh.
Deep snow?
Well, yeah, it was back then. It was a car. Today it's a classic, but back then it was like just your everyday driver.
Everyday driver.
Yeah, love that car. God.
So I don't have a favorite car. I have a bunch of cars that, depending upon what I'm feeling that day, I'd like basically everything. It's just little things differences that set them apart from each other. So I like the classic cars. I like taking them for a ride. Not so much the newer ones. I like taking the new Corvettes or a Camaro or something like that.
Well, back in the day,
yeah.
We had the Mustangs, the Machs. You had the Camaros. You had the Chevelles. You had the Torinos and all the
Dodge Chargers.
Dodge was big back then. I almost bought a Roadrunner years ago. It had a bad motor. It had a 446 pack in it with a 4-speed, and I could have bought it for $500. And I didn't have $500.
It wasn't brown, was it?
No, it was that cream.
Cream color?
It was cream.
Was a good color.
But it was a nice car. And he blew the motor up. I could have bought it for $500.
All right, so I'm glad you brought up blowing up motor, because nowadays things are a little bit more efficient. Not a little bit, but they're a lot more efficient.
They are.
So even though people say, hey, my car was easier to work on back then, and everybody could technically work on their car, but you were always tinkering. You were always adjusting. You were always tuning.
You got out in the morning, you opened the hood. You stuck a screwdriver or a closed pit on the choke. You hit the gas a couple times, and you hoped it started. Then you watched some black smoke come out of the back end. Mm-hmm. Then you took the closed pit off, put the air cleaner cover back on, and got in the car, went to the first stop sign, and it stalled. That's what they did. And you got used to that. My wife used to go, we had a Chevelle. I had a 69 Chevelle. She used to go to work. We were living in Wyoming. She worked in Kingston. She would get all the way to the light at the airport in 40 Fort, and it would stall at that light every day. If she didn't get the light, it didn't stall. But if she got the light, it stalled. The one and only time that car would stall is that light.
Were you a mechanic back then?
I was.
And you didn't want to fix this? Or is that just the way it was?
That was just normal.
Characteristic
of that particular carburetor, the warm-up cycle in the car. It's just the way it was, and we got used to those idiosyncrasies of cars. Things that you had to do. You kicked the door panel a couple times and held the door shut in the winter because it didn't want to latch because it froze. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what we used to do. It was fun times.
So now moving forward, the reliability has went up in the cars, and I could see back then that each car had their own characteristics.
Right.
Some cars were better than others. Buick, Oldsmobile, Pontiac, and each person was devoted to their brand.
Oh, absolutely.
Even the Buick customers, still to this day. It's not their father's Buick anymore. That old cliche has gone out the window, but Buick has stood the test of time for reliability, engineering.
They've had some gorgeous cars over the years.
Correct. First in the rides and transmissions and everything like styling, even styling. I know we have them in the showroom here. We have a lot of older classic cars that we'd like to display from the 40s, 50s, 60s in here that people can come, no charge, just walk around and reminisce, and brings back memories, which is...
What was nice about the old days that we don't have today is you could tell the car from a distance. You could look at your rearview mirror and know if there's a state trooper behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Today's cars look a lot similar because of the aerodynamics in the car. Not that that's a bad thing. It just made them very hard to identify. But in the old days, you knew who was behind you. You knew if it was your dad in front of you.
And that's a very interesting point, that they kind of all blend together.
They do.
A little bit similar, but mostly because of the aerodynamics and fuel efficiency now that they want to make them more efficient.
But they are nothing alike under the hood or inside the cars.
Ride, styling is very big. Reliability is another big issue. Technologies in there. And what else? It seems as though the society today is, what else can we put in there? It's amenities. So I could think of amenities like, just off the top of my head, that we sell vehicles here that have heated steering wheels. And people who are not used to a heated steering wheel are very impressed. They thought, I don't want that option. But let me tell you, come wintertime, that heated steering wheel, that's on now. And even the car will make it click on automatically if it's the ambient temperature is at
these old man
degrees.
hands.
Yeah.
Used to cold steering wheels, but I'll tell you what, when you get in the car with a heated steering wheel, that's all me.
It's nice. But, some people say, you know what, I don't need a heated steering wheel.
Yes, you do.
But when you have it,
you want it.
You can't live without it.
Heated seats.
Heated seats,
Seats
absolutely.
that vibrate if you go out of the lane. The telltales.
Yeah.
Power windows. Back in the old days, you cranked that sucker up. Mm-hmm. You cranked it down. Sometimes it's stripped and you had to put the handle back on and hold it while you're cranking it. How many of them stripped? Although we did have the 280 air conditioning where you could open up those wing windows and you can get air in it 80 miles an hour.
Right.
Today you can't. Today, if you put the windows down, you get deafened by the noise from the air coming around them because they're so aerodynamic. But the old cars just floated.
See, and you just clicked a memory in my head. Way back when, they had this Dan-skin material that my mother used to dress me in, kind of like a leotard, a jumper suit. And I remember 100 degrees outside, and in the car, we'd roll down the windows. That suit was sticking to me like glue. Mm-hmm. I felt like
they're all
a giant
vinyl seats.
Sweat bomb.
Vinyl seats. You stuck
vinyl
to them.
Seats, yeah.
You got in, you burned your legs.
It was torture. And what'd you do? You stuck your head out like a dog and cool yourself down. I mean, that's what it was. I mean, the last episode we were talking about in the wagons that we had, because we had Buick Estate wagons that we put down the rear window. Yep. The seat was backwards, the third row seating, and you get a little bit of the fumes in the back that would knock out the kids.
Sure.
That they weren't thinking of that. Oh, yeah. Way back then. But
it was secondary.
It was secondary. It was secondary. But yeah, those are the things that I remember, even till this day that I remember.
We didn't have stereos in the cars. You had mono sound, AM at best.
Yeah. How about the seatbelts?
The seatbelt.
You know where the safest place was for myself? Was on the floor in the back seat. That's where I stayed. I remember putting my head on the drive shaft tunnel because it was warm.
Oh yeah.
And that's where I would lay like a cat.
Yep.
My parents didn't care.
You didn't have air conditioning in a lot of cars. Right.
Absolutely. But that's where I curled up right in the little footwell of the passenger side. And sometimes I would jam my legs underneath the seat where it'd be a little bit warm, but God forbid you're in an accident.
Well, then you had this was the seat. Yeah, the seat. That was the seatbelt.
That was the seatbelt. So sticking your arm out and holding your kid, that was the seatbelt. It's a reaction
to me.
Right. And it seems like growing up in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, that's what our parents did, or whoever was driving the vehicle. If they had to stop short, you'd have your seatbelt on, that arm would automatically...
Oh, that was an automatic arm.
A reaction that you just put that up, and there's your
Yep.
Arm airbag.
Yep. 2 feet on the brake.
That's it. 2 feet on the
Because that's
brake.
how it stopped. It didn't have no power, a lot of those old cars.
Right. Right. No anti-lock braking, nothing like
None of
that.
it.
But, in the same token, those cars didn't dent very easy. I mean, those bumpers were actual bumpers.
They were. Old cars, you could hit a tree and just back up and drive away. Today, you hit a tree, there's nothing left to the car.
Right.
The tree didn't even get a dent in it, but the car is destroyed. However, people are safer today.
They are safer, and because they make crumple zones, they make indentations in the frame to prevent the occupant from being damaged. So the
car takes the absorption of the
car
of the
takes the
shock.
absorption in the front, but the occupants are unharmed.
And that brings up a good point, because with airbags and things like we have in cars today, the old days, we saw somebody traveling down the road and you saw the passenger had their feet up on the dash like this and all that stuff. Today, if you do that and the airbag ignites, it could break your legs or put them right through your chin.
Yeah, you can blow your whole ass apart when you got your legs up.
It could destroy you. Of course, if anybody ever put their feet up on my dash in my truck, I would choke them. So that's not going to happen in my truck, but.
So you just put me back to a film or Smokey and the Bandit where Sally Fields has her,
Sally,
she has her feet up on the dash and she's
she can put her
dancing on the
feet
windshield.
anywhere in my car. I'm
All
sorry.
right.
I have to take it back.
All right.
Whew, what a good movie that was.
That was a good movie.
Jackie.
So make sure
Gleason.
you check out my video. I did a Burt Reynolds video. It's on YouTube. If you go to the
I saw
website,
it.
check it out. It's pretty funny.
It is funny.
But that's where I sparked.
yeah.
I love Burt Reynolds.
Oh,
and
Burt
Sally
Reynolds
Fields
and
the
Jackie
Trans
Gleason.
Ams.
Oh, and the Trans Am.
It was great. So the evolution of cars has been a plus. So even though it's the kind of nostalgic looking at the old cars and they're all different and they're works of art now.
They are works of art.
That's what it seems like.
And
they're
in
the
the
works
old,
of art.
and in the old days, you were accustomed to seeing cars on the side of the road that broke down. You were accustomed to taking it to the garage multiple times a year for repairs,
Yep.
because they weren't reliable as they are today. Today, rarely do you see a car on the side of the road that broke down, maybe because it had a flat tire and somebody's waiting for a wreck or something like that. But they don't break down like they used to. Today, even when there's something wrong with them, they go into a fail-safe mode where you can at least drive them to a dealership or repair facility, so you're not stuck on the side of the road.
How about way back when taking antifreeze or a mixture in your car, like olden days, 1950s, 60s? Everybody had a gallon of antifreeze in the car when it overheated or
Oh my
water,
God,
things
yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
Who had
antifreeze,
belts? Everybody had jumper cables.
cables. You had oil in
Yeah.
the car because they used oil.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our oil technology years ago was half the reason why we had the failures of the old cars.
And it seems like that people could work on their own cars. They can do some minor maintenance if in a pinch
They
or something
could.
like that.
My dad wasn't a mechanic, but he changed his own transmission in the driveway because, well, you did it for, there were 6 of us in the family. You couldn't always take it to a garage. Back then, when you were making $100 a week at best and you have 6 kids to eat, you tried to save as much money as you could. So, you stayed home and did it in the driveway. As a matter of fact, that's how I got involved in working on cars. We had a neighbor, true story. She had for graduation, she got a 68 Firebird, and it had the old overhead cam 6-cylinder. Remember that?
Yeah, that's a rare bird now.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have it anymore, unfortunately, but 2-speed, 300 super turbine tranny in it. And it wasn't running good. And Carpenter Pontiac used to be just down the street from my parents' house. So we jumped in the car, and I was young at the time. We jumped in the car, and we went down to Carpenter Pontiac, and this guy comes out of guy obviously being a mechanic. And he has this thing in his hand. To me, it looked like a flashlight with a couple wires on it. I had no idea what it was. And he reaches down in there and he looks at it and says, "No wonder it's not running right. It's running to 14. And it just sparked my interest. Later on, I found out that it was a timing light in the car was not in the correct time, and that's why the car wasn't running correctly. And that's what put that little flashlight on in my little pea brain, and kind of got me into cars.
That's what you got.
After that, I started going to school for auto mechanics, and I came out of Westside Tech, and I've been doing this ever since.
Thank God for that. and me and the dealership. I'm
Well,
glad you're here.
I love it. I love doing this. I was meant to be a mechanic.
That's good. So, taking us into the next segment now. Now you have to be super smart, almost an engineer to work on these cars. So that's why you still go to school.
You never stop going to school, and
You never stop learning.
In this industry. You never stop learning. You think doctors go to school? They got nothing on us. We are constantly going to school. We're constantly buying equipment. We're constantly training, learning, and experimenting because there are things out there that are just unknown. They're unknown to the manufacturer until it comes out in the field, and that's what we have to do that.
That's a good point. Body hasn't changed. Cars have changed.
Cars have changed tremendously.
And you have to adapt.
It is nothing like it used to be under the hood.
So the days of people working on their own car are really, you could get yourself into trouble, especially with what's on the internet with misinformation.
Well, YouTube could be a bad thing.
It could be. So the short answer is, if you have an issue with a car, take it to a reputable shop.
Correct.
Maybe somebody that's been working on your car or your parents' car and you just continued that you feel comfortable with.
Sure.
Either a certified shop like we are.
Correct.
And we do work on other makes and models.
We work on everything.
On everything. Just because we have that background, we have the experience, we have the technicians that can do that.
Yep. I spent many years working on all kinds of stuff, from garbage trucks to freight trains, I think. But
Freight trains.
Everything.
Very interesting. So I want to thank everybody for watching. I'll see you on the next episode. If you guys like this episode or if you're interested in a topic, you could send it to Tailgate Talk at JodanBuickGMC.com. Thanks for Ricky for being here.
Thank you, Pat.
And I'll catch you on the next Tailgate Talk. Hey, it's Danny from Jodan Buick GMC. Thanks for listening.